Hello. Before I get started, I would like to introduce my audience. Liam, George, Nemo, and Natalia. Hello. My name is Linda Tomnick, and I will be presenting my cultural hero, who I picked as Frida Kahlo, the feminist fighter. Kahlo's beginning. She was born on July 6, 1907. She was diagnosed with polio at age 5, which caused one of her legs to be significantly smaller than the other, which affected her physical appearance and how she walked. When she was 18, she was involved in a trolley accident, which caused her to become bedridden for, I think, 8 months, and she was physically affected for the rest of her life. She was unable to bear children, and she had many problems and lived in constant pain because of this accident. Art became her way of surviving. Her family set up a canvas for her and some mirrors so that she could paint herself in bed. And see if you in this picture, see how she has like the canvas and stuff. She laid in bed and painted. In 1929, she married Diego Rivera, who as well was an artist. It was an unhappy marriage, and she had several miscarriages, which she would paint a lot about that because that affected her life very hard. And her marriage was very difficult for her as well. She had many affairs, and so did Diego. And they unmarried in, I think, in like 1920, and then they got married the same year, which they had a very complicated relationship, and it really affected her mentally. Her cultural factors are that she's Latina, she's a woman, and she was bisexual, and she was open about her sexuality. Our similarities are that we both are women, we both are Latina, we both are feminists. I believe we both break gender norms, and we both are artists. Frida was a feminist because she did not conform to beauty standards, and her paintings were more open about abortion, miscarriage, and birth, and she was not afraid to be open about these concepts, which was very different for Mexico, especially in the 1900s, because those were not very open. The women were still more defined into be, you work in the kitchen, you belong in the kitchen. They had no say in politics and stuff, but she was very open. She was a very stood out communist. She was very involved in politics. She even had an affair with Leon Trotsky, which is really interesting to me because you would never assume that they would be involved together because they are from so different parts of the world, and that she was able to be so involved. And she was very open about her sexuality. She would have affairs with a woman, and she was open about it. She did not care that she was married or anything. She would just be open about it, and to the public it was really eye-opening, and it was really groundbreaking, especially at the time, because the time was different, and she was not afraid. She was a modern woman for her time. Why she was a hero? She was a feminist icon. She was known for defying gender stereotypes, even at the time. Even when she was a child, her father had put her in boxing, and at the time that was really groundbreaking because women weren't really involved in sports, especially in Mexico. And that was something that stood out to many people because it began in her childhood. It wasn't something that was brought on upon her. She was raised to defy gender stereotypes. Her paintings were very opening, and they were very effective of how they talked about problems that were never discussed, especially in a prominent Catholic country. And she was proud of her sexuality. Her paintings are still discussed to this time, which is something that nobody would have ever thought, because at the time she wasn't famous, but she was only really known for marrying Diego Rivera, who was a famous painter. But now she's such a known person, everybody knows who she is. She was also very, as I mentioned earlier, very involved politically with the Communist Party. She was also she still affects today because inequality still happens today, but many people use her as an example. The inequalities that we still have today compared to a century ago is that there's still a gender wage gap. People are more aware though. Not everywhere. The glass ceiling is broken, and I feel like women will forever be fighting for a place in society to be equal. During her time of living, she only received one award. In 1946, she received the National Prize of Arts and Science, which was conferred to her by the Minister of Public Education. That was her only award in her lifetime. In 2010, her and Diego Rivera became the face of the peso for the $500 peso. But now she is one of the most recognized faces in Latino history. And in conclusion, she is an inspiration for the LGBTQ community. She is, or for also women and artists all across the world. She did not even know that she would be making history. Like, she didn't know that she would be one of the most recognized faces. She also helped further Latino culture because of her art, because it's so known. She spread awareness upon Latino culture because she would dress in very traditional wear, and because she would also express her culture, and also along with the Latino culture with her sexuality, gender norms, and just art all around, because she would focus mostly on portraits and stuff of herself, and that was really groundbreaking at the time as well, because the only really other known artists are like Van Gogh and Picasso, who focused on portraits of themselves, and she's one of those individuals. Without her, we don't know where feminism would be without her, because she was just one of the most known faces and recognized for him. And she is an inspiration and icon for many Latino women all across the world, and will forever be. Thank you, guys.